So, a very good day to one and all. Today we will be discussing about a very important topic in pediatric surgery called renal tumors. So, we'll be discussing in detail regarding the various renal tumors of childhood. So, renal tumors constitute about 2.3% of malignancies or cancers in children less than 15 years of age. The most common renal tumors that we encounter among children are Wilms tumor, also called nephroblastoma or renal embryoma, renal cell carcinoma, even though renal cell carcinoma is more common among adults, clear cell sarcoma of kidney, rhabdoid tumor of the kidney, congenital mesoblastic nephroma, cystic renal tumors, and angiomyolipoma. So, Wilms tumor is the most common malignancy, renal malignancy or tumor, which constitutes nearly 91% of cases. Clear cell sarcoma of kidney and rhabdoid tumor of kidney were initially thought to be variants of Wilms tumor, but now they are considered to be separate entities. Renal cell carcinoma constitutes 5.9% of renal malignancies in childhood, and a large majority of them occur in the older children or adolescents. So, treatment in renal tumors are basically dependent upon the risk that each person has, staging, and the histology. So, recently genetic management or genetic components are said to play a very important role regarding the prognosis and treatment of children with renal tumors. The goal in any case of renal tumor is to achieve or is to ensure risk-based management, because we don't want a child with a low stage tumor to be subjected to a higher grade of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and we don't want a child with a higher stage or higher grade tumor to be subjected to be undertreated or to be subjected to a lower degree of chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So, management in renal tumors is always risk-based. And always remember that rhabdoid tumors of kidney, clear cell sarcoma of kidney, and anaplastic variant of Wilms tumor, all of these have poor prognosis. So, coming on to the most common renal tumor in childhood, Wilms tumor. Now, first we need to understand the spelling of Wilms tumor. Very commonly, we find that it is misspelled as Wilms apostrophe S. This is wrong. So, the actual spelling that you have for Wilms tumor is Wilms, and the apostrophe comes after S. As you can see here, this is because the person who described Wilms tumor for the first time was Karl Marx Wilhelm Wilms. So, Wilms tumor is W-I-L-M-S apostrophe S tumor. There is no apostrophe between Wilhelm and S. Now, this same Karl Marx Wilhelm Wilms was the one who proposed that tumor cells originate during embryogenesis. The first successful nephrorectomy in a child with Wilms tumor was done by Dr. Thomas Jessop in Leeds, England, way back in the 18th century. The survival in Wilms tumor was very low, dismally low as a matter of fact. It was only 5% at the beginning of 20th century. But now over a period of time, with improvement in surgical techniques, advent of radiotherapy and chemotherapy, survival rate is significantly better. Surgery has always remained the cornerstone management of Wilms tumor, and in 1916, our radiotherapy was added as an adjunct to surgery by a person called Dr. Friedlander. In the 1930s, lads revolutionized surgery in Wilms tumor by propounding 3 important points to be considered while operating on a child with Wilms tumor. The first thing he said was that the incision in a child being operated for a Wilms tumor should be a liberal one. It should be a bilateral recti cutting supraumbilical transverse incision. The second thing that he said was that the renal vessels have to be handled first. The third point that he proposed was that the tumor has to be removed in toto along with the Gerota's fascia. So, with the advent of these 3 theories or 3 instructions which were put forward by Ladd, there was a dramatic improvement in survival after nephrorectomy for Wilms tumor. In fact, survival rate increased to as high as 32.2%, with morbidity decreasing to almost 7%. Now, number of Wilms tumor cases depend upon the area that we are looking at. In the United States, we get around 500 to 550 cases per year. It remains the second most common malignant abdominal tumor in childhood, and the most common malignant abdominal tumor in childhood is of course neuroblastoma. The risk of a child developing Wilms tumor is 1 in 10,000. there seems to be an increased risk among African and American blacks, and the risk seems to be the least among Asians. The mean age of diagnosis of a child with Wilms tumor was found to be 36 months, and the common age group that Wilms tumor occurs is from 1 year to 4 years, or 12 months to 48 months. It is extremely rare among children more than 10 years and in children less than 6 months of age. Associated congenital anomalies are noted in 10% cases, and common syndromes that are associated with Wilms tumor include Weger syndrome, Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, Denny-Drash syndrome, hemihypertrophy, Perlman syndrome, Frazier syndrome. Common congenital urogenital anomalies that are associated with Wilms tumor include hypospadias and cryptorchidism. Now, coming on to the individual syndromes which are associated with Wilms tumor. One of the most important syndromes associated with Wilms tumor is Weger. So, Weger is a mnemonic for Wilms tumor, W for Wilms tumor, A for aniridia, G for genitourinary anomalies, and R for retardation of mental growth or mental retardation. Common gene which is involved in Weger syndrome would be the WT1 gene, which is located on chromosome number 11p13. So, this is another very important to be noted. So, always describe, when you describe a gene and the chromosome and the gene that is associated with it, or the locus associated with it, it is always described as, for example, in this case, 11p13. So, that is how it is described. Now, children with Weger syndrome have a 30% higher risk of developing Wilms tumor compared to general population. Weger syndrome is commonly discovered at birth because of its most obvious feature, which is aniridia. And nearly all children among all children with Wilms tumor, 0.75% of them have Weger.